Hey, so my name is Jennifer Daniel. I am from around here. I'm a country girl. Let's tell a little bit about how it was. So, growing up, my parents got divorced, I believe, when I was in elementary school, in I think kindergarten. And I remember going to school and crying and my teacher consoling me, and it was just the worst thing ever. My parents eventually got back together. I was the only child until I was 9. It was difficult because my father was an alcoholic and an addict, so there was a lot of domestic violence and abuse that happened. And I was doing this by myself. I had no siblings, nobody that, I could share my pain with, I guess you could say. My parents eventually got divorced when I was 11 and made the decision to go and live with my father. When I did that, mine and my mother's relationship was pretty much severed. And to fit in with my dad, I started drinking. Started drinking with him when I was 11. That continued for a couple years. He ended up going to prison for armed robbery. And I was forced to move back in with my mom, the one that did not have a great relationship with. For the next several years, I went in and out of rehabs, tried different alcohol, drugs, marijuana, meth, cocaine, anything to try to get rid of the pain that I had inside. I was, didn't mention this, but I was molested from the time I was 5 until I was 10 as well. I started drinking and I fit in with my dad, and it helped to deal with the pain. And then he goes to prison and I'm forced to go live with mom. And it was just, the next several years, it was just hard. Fit in anywhere I could. This is when I found out that men would accept me as I was, even if only for a few minutes. Eventually, I started using meth. I started using it when I was 17. Started using it with a 27-year-old man, and I was 17. Didn't last long. I got busted, went to jail, went to treatment for I think about 1.5 years. I wasn't using, but I still hadn't dealt with all of the issues that I had, and I got pregnant while I was in rehab. I was in Louisville. I came back home to Elkton. I didn't want to raise a baby in Louisville by myself. So I come back home, meet a man. He promises to be everything that I ever imagined. For a short amount of time, he was. He was good to me. He adopted my son. We got married, had 2 more children. But he was an addict as well. He relapsed and started using again, and the whole time that I was having children and getting married and all that, for 8 years I stayed sober. But eventually, I wasn't going to church. I didn't have a sponsor. I didn't have support. I wasn't doing anything I needed to do to take care of myself, and eventually I used. That started an 8-year course of just craziness. It started off with just alcohol. A few days later, marijuana, and then the next thing I know, I'm strung out on meth. All the while, I have my 3 kids there with me, going through it with me. Excuse me. The good thing about that, though, is that my kids saw what they did not want to be when they grew up. So anyway, 8 years I was in addiction. I ended up marrying my drug dealer. That was not the best idea. There was domestic violence. It was just very toxic. He taught me how to manufacture meth. And for an addict, that was probably one of the worst things that I could ever learn, is how to make it for myself. because then I could have it readily available at any time. And I could also make enough money that I didn't have to spend money on it. So there was another justification, well, you're not spending money, so it's okay. That went on for a long time. Like I said, I was in my relapse for 8 years. I met a man in November of 2013. I called him Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. He was sweet one minute and just mean as a snake the next. And everybody told me, if you're running with this guy, you're going to go to jail. You're running with him, you're going to go to jail. But by that time, at that point, I didn't care. I think I really believed that, I'm just going to go until I'm stopped, and then once I'm stopped, I'm done. So in January of 2014, January 20th of 2014, I was arrested. I was passed out at McDonald's with a meth lab in the truck, and I went to jail. But I wasn't upset. I was relieved, because like I said, I knew that once I was stopped, it was going to be over. The first day in jail, I slept. The second day was the day that changed my life. Excuse me. Had some wonderful, beautiful women come into the jail. I wasn't going to go to church. I actually just wanted to sleep. But I heard God tell me, if you're expecting a blessing, the least you can do is get out of your bunk for an hour. And I was obedient. And that is when I learned how important it is to be obedient. Man, that night was amazing. That was the night I truly surrendered. I said, I can't do it no more. God, you gotta take it. You gotta take it, because I can't. I'm still in the relationship with this man. I knew that when I get out of jail, I'm going to have to go home to this man. I know he's not going to quit using. I did threaten to divorce them if you don't get sober, It didn't happen. And for 3.5 years, I stayed with him continuing to use. And that's how I know God is real. Because had he not took my craving and my desire away, there is no way I could have stayed sober in that environment. Going to my court stuff, I don't even remember now how many years it was that they offered me in court, but it was a very, very long time. Manufacturing methamphetamine is a Class B felony, and it carries 10 to 20 years. So yeah, that was pretty rough. But the first time I talked to the attorney, he told me that he could get me a diversion because I'd never been in trouble. So I go and I meet with him, and he says, I didn't realize when we were talking that you had a Class B. There's no way, it's not eligible. You can't get a diversion on a Class B felony. But I was told, you keep praying because God can do things that man can't. So I did. Court process usually takes forever. It took over a year. And the last offer, the attorney came in. He said, you can go to jail for 10 years, or I can give you your diversion. And I was like, okay, but you're going to have to write a statement on that guy that you were running with. And at first I told him, there's no way. I'd always been taught that you will get your house burned down, you'll get killed. I was scared. So I asked for a little bit of time, and when I left there, I talked to everybody that was my support. And all of my support told me the same thing. If you're done with this life, you do what you got to do. You got kids to think about. But I still had the feeling of, there's been a lot of things I've done wrong that I didn't get caught doing, so I deserve this. But I had somebody tell me, this is what you've been praying for over a year. And just because it's not wrapped up in the box that you want it to be in, just because it's not exactly how you want it, you're going to tell God, no, thank you. So I couldn't argue that one. This is what I've been praying for. Here it is. So I did. I wrote, a statement stating what had happened that night. And it implicated another individual, the Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde man. So, I go on about my life. I get the 5-year diversion. I start school. Start going to school to become a counselor. I'm working. I'm working in the field, I guess you could say. Doing drug testing, ankle monitors. I'm getting involved with the court system, juvenile drug court, and I'm building a whole new life for myself. Just a totally different life than I ever realized. But it's all because of my obedience. If I had not been obedient to what God was telling me, there's no way it would have ever happened. And I just continued doing that. That's what I continued to do, is I continued to be obedient to what I knew God was wanting me to do. And I listened so I would know what He wanted me to do. He delivered me, but I've had to walk it out. So anyway, I'm going to AA meetings, NA meetings. I'm going to church. I'm going to all these different things. I'm building my support in this new life. And I end up doing this 4th step. And then eventually you make amends. And so I felt like I should make amends to the man that I wrote the statement on. Even though I had told the truth, there was still something in me from way back of, you don't tell on people, it's wrong to tell on someone. So I wrote him a letter, and he wrote me back and said, I'm not mad. You did what you needed to do in order to change your life, so I'm not mad at you. So I was like, whew, I thought he was going to kill me or burn my house down. So anyway, I go to Trace Diaz in October of 2016, and I decided then that I was no longer going to continue the relationship that I was in with the man who was still using. I started praying then, I'm going to have a man of God. I'm going to have a husband that serves God with me. And that's what I started praying for. So in June of 2017, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, the man that I wrote this statement on, came back into my life. And he was sober, living for God. I was scared to death. I was really going to have to take a step of faith, because all I knew of this man was November to January of us using. I did not know this new man. But I took that chance. And we've been married now almost 5 years. I've got over 8 years sober. He's got over 6 years sober. I've graduated college. I'm now a licensed therapist for the state of Kentucky. I work at a faith-based facility, getting to tell people about God every day and showing them there's a way out, and it's through Him. But life is far, far better than I ever imagined. God didn't just give me what I thought I wanted. He gave me what I didn't even realize I wanted. My kids, they're healthy, they're happy. None of the 3 are addicted. They are pretty normal. They turned out to be good kids. And that's by the grace of God, because it wasn't by the grace of Jennifer. If they'd have followed my footsteps, it wouldn't be good. But I feel like that generational curse was broken. My daughter should have been just like her mom. But instead of my daughter being one that's getting pregnant and having babies born addicted, my daughter is taking care of someone else's baby that was born addicted. And I have the most beautiful little grandbaby ever. And none of that would be without God. None of it would be. So I'm so grateful. Even though I don't like sharing my testimony, I'm obedient because I know that there's a reason why my name was put on someone's heart. And I'm just grateful. And I thank you for letting me come. I can't say enough about how good God has been to me. And all I've got to do is just walk in that obedience and do the next right thing that I know He wants me to do. And when I don't know what He wants me to do, I got to sit still and listen and just be still. And He'll tell me. So yeah, that's pretty much my life. You know, it was rough, but man, it's been amazing ever since. Yeah, it's good stuff. It was finished. January 21st, 2014, it was finished. Yeah. And that's it.